Hi, I'm Pastor Stephanie Lape at Cross and Crown Lutheran Church in Rancho Cucamonga, California. And I've been away for a little while from this YouTube channel. I went on vacation. I've had a very busy time since I've come back to church. So it's good to be with you all again in YouTube land. Today I want to talk about self-doubt. A lot of people have self-doubt. A lot of people have anxieties about what they're supposed to be doing in life, and they don't feel like they have enough confidence to pursue what they feel that they're supposed to be pursuing. So I have a couple of recommendations if you're struggling with that. First, it's important to know that pretty much everybody goes through this. And, we don't make it obvious. We don't walk around with signs on us saying that we lack confidence. But there are always things that people are struggling with, and they should, in a sense, because we're always expanding just a little bit outside of our comfort zone. So in order to be that continually expanding person, growing more and more in our life, accomplishing more goals and growing more mature and deeper in our spiritual life, we shouldn't always be doing the same things. And so we should be getting out there a little bit on that cutting edge to grow into what is next for us. And so if that comes with anxiety, just know that that's normal. Most people go through that. There are a few things you can do that might help to soothe some of that anxiety. One thing is to take care of yourself physically. So exercise, get enough sleep, take time off from work to rest and to play and have recreation. That's really important. It's important to surround yourself with good friends and people that can encourage you, and it's important to encourage yourself. It's also important to look at where those voices are coming from of self-doubt or anxiety. They could be voices that you're carrying around from your parents or teachers that you knew or people from your past. It's also important to tell ourselves that there are ways to become more confident, and we can learn more skills, we can develop more skills in time, and sometimes just with practice, we'll become more confident at what we'd like to do in this life. Ultimately, though, I think that it's helpful to remember that these feelings probably won't ever go away entirely. So for me, I'm always trying to go just a little bit further out into my life to do that next thing that's more expansive, whether it's through YouTube video making, or right now I'm doing a lot of submitting different articles for publication. Every time I do that, every time I make a YouTube video or every time I submit an article for publication, there's a little bit of anxiety because it's being vulnerable. And if a person didn't want to be vulnerable in this life, they would basically just need to sit at home on their couch and do nothing. And that's not going to accomplish much for your one precious life that you've been given. So there's always that sense when you're vulnerable that you're putting yourself out there to possible rejection, like rejection of the articles I submit. It's important then for me to remember that I'm not addicted to praise, that I don't need praise, because when you're not addicted to praise, when you're not addicted to compliments, when you don't need anybody to like what you're doing, then criticism or rejection of what you're doing isn't that important either. You realize, as a spiritual person, for me, I realize that my validation comes only from God, and that validation is ongoing all the time. I believe that God loves me and every one of us in full all the time. And so because of that, and because I keep my eyes there, my focus there, it's not necessary then for me to have praise from people. I mean, it's nice if people say thank you for things, but that's not why I do what I do. And so because I don't need people's praise, I'm also less vulnerable to people's criticisms, if that makes any sense. My validation comes from God, and that's where I put my hope and my trust. Still, though, there's always this little bit of vulnerability, this little bit of anxiety, and I just know for me, I need to not take counsel from that. It's just kind of like static in the background, or sort of a buzz going on in the background that I'm moving into my cutting edge of whatever it happens to be. So I hope that helps you as you are constantly expanding and growing in your life. I hope you find your sense of self-worth and validation in the God who made you and loves you, and not in any people, not in any other voices you're carrying around, any scripts that people have told you that you're supposed to do things or not do things. praise or criticism from the outside, that's always going to be fickle. It's always going to be unstable. But when you put your sense of self-worth solely in the hands of the God who loves you, then that is very, very stable. And you're planting yourself in a very rooted, solid way. And that probably will give you more courage then to get out there, even when it's a little bit scary, and do the next thing you feel that you're called to do. If you'd ever like to come talk to me as a pastor, most pastors, I think, probably, but I can at least speak for myself, I'm underutilized in that way. And what I mean is, I think a lot of people think that I am just so very busy. And I mean, I'm busy, of course, with some things, but I'm not so busy that I can't take time out to talk to people that have concerns or they're struggling with things. Part of what I love to do is pastoral counseling. So my point is, feel free. If you ever would like to have pastoral counseling, if you ever would like to talk to somebody, I'm not a therapist, but I do have a graduate degree in psychology, and I'm trained in pastoral counseling. And so I generally see people, 1, 2, maybe even 3 times, and talk about whatever people need to talk about or want to talk about. Totally free of charge. So, and if you need more extensive therapy, then I can help you with some referrals to that. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and may God bless you always.